Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast. 23, Devin Hester, Michael Jordan, Ryan Sandberg, days away from the NFL draft and our NFL draft party. Yes,
leaving off Robin Ventura and Jermaine Dye and Jerry Azuma and Kyle Fuller.
A lot of 23s out there.
Roshan Johnson?
Roshan Johnson.
Absolutely. Keep on going. I'm not trying to leave anybody off. Who else do you want to throw in there? Give me some great 23s.
You help us out. We gave you the currents.
No, I got to help you out. No,
Yeah.
I gave.
We just rang off like 10.
Well, that's a good job by you then, buddy. Yeah. All right. Hey, thank you for tuning in here. Sorry we're a couple of minutes late here today. We apologize. We do thank our
Nick's fault.
Our 100 new. What's up?
I said it was Nick's fault.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Everyone has slip-ups.
I don't know. I'm pretty certain that I was the first person in the office today, and I was the first person in my chair today. Wow. Great to go, Carman.
Our cameras weren't
Big
working.
of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nobody's fault.
Thank you very much. Hey, 100 new subscribers added yesterday. Let's keep it going today. Hit the like button as we start the show today. We greatly appreciate it as we try to grow the CHGO Bears podcast every single minute, every single day. And yes, tell a friend. Let them subscribe as well. 3 weeks away from the NFL draft party. Which, Braggs, would you like to talk about that at the start? Before we bring in Adam Hoge, we're going to talk about risers and fallers today. A lot of great stuff going on behind the scenes here as we dive into everything that's going on. But first, our draft party.
Excited for the risers and fallers, but we know the Bears are on the rise. In 23 days from today will be the next step on that rise. Joe's on Weed Street, presented by Circus Sports and Casa Azul. We're going to be live 2 days, once again, just like last year. Corey Wooten's going to be there. Nick, Mark, Adam, Steven, all the CHGO Sports gang, even some of the other guys from some of the other teams will be there hanging out for the first round on Thursday night, 23 days away, as we see Caleb Williams become a Chicago Bear. Tickets are very limited for the Thursday night show, which there will be an after party as well with DJ Trey Tunes. So get your tickets while they last. And then Friday night, you got the second and third round. Gary Fensick will be on hand. Collector's Cave bringing out a legendary Chicago Bear and Hall of Famer, a guy that a Super Bowl champion, I should say. So you'll have a chance to get an autograph, get a picture with him, and we're going to be doing the second and third round. Dalton and the Sheriffs will be the after party Friday night, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you want any kind of merchandise from the Collector's Cave, you can visit MakeSigningsFunAgain.com. They have a lot of different live events with players. We had Jha-Quan Jackson. We did a live show with them at Buffalo Wings and Rings last year, but they have a lot of merchandise on their website that will be exactly what you're looking for. So 23 days away, 24 from the Friday. Come on out, get your tickets. Let's party. We'll get drunk together as we talk Bears.
All right. Noah Wise says, if Carman's there, I'm not coming. Noah, me and you have got a table for us in the corner. We're going to work out whatever your issues are because I have no issues with you, Noah. I have great respect for everything you
will
do
be there
in Noah land. All right, let's bring in our guy who is deep in his own bunker doing all the draft work today, our leader, our hero, the great Adam Hoge, who has two big moves today as we're going to look at some risers and some fallers here, Hoagie Cat. I'm very excited for this as guys are moving up the board, guys are moving down. You're doing your deep research like you always do, better than everybody else in the entire football world. Welcome back to your show.
Yeah, I was going to say, just let's slow down here, all right? Because you made me sit here for, I think, 6 minutes in pain because no one mentioned Jermaine Dye, okay?
I did.
So-
I mentioned Jermaine Dye.
Okay, so because Carm didn't mention Jermaine Dye, I'm still upset because he just more lack of respect for the World Series MVP, and because he didn't mention it right away, I guess I missed it. Bragg said it, so respect to Braggs, who's
Jermaine Dye, Robin Ventura,
right? The respect, the 23 is special in this city.
Paul Konerko. I'm just going to name White Sox players until you're happy.
Yeah, but we're naming 23s. I mean,
what about Dwayne Wise at the wall? What about Mark Burley on the mound?
You don't need to name all the White Sox.
What about Ray Durham? What about who? Give me a White Sox who wore 18. Who wore 18? Did Craig Graveck wear 18? Was he 14?
He was 12.
He was 12?
Maybe he was 14. It was some weird team.
All right, nobody cares about this. Back to the risers. Are we starting with risers? Can we talk about Joe Alt? Can we get into the mix here? We mentioned him yesterday. I know that he's shooting up the Hoge draft board like you wouldn't believe. Yes,
not really. Let me set this up. So we've been working on this draft database, and it's available for all CHGO Diehard. So one of the many perks you get for signing up and being a Diehard, you can see this as we're working on it, and we are getting very, very close to expanding this thing out to our goal is 50 by the end of the week. We're eventually working our way up to Bears 100. We will have 100 prospects all set up for you guys for draft weekend by the time we get to the draft in a few weeks. But what we've already had out there for you, and it is public and available for you now, for CHGO Diehards, is our top 20. And in the process of expanding this and working on more prospects, it's shifted some things, right? Because this is all just a matter of doing the homework, learning more about these guys. And as we do that, because we don't do this year round, you're going to see movement. And we're starting to get there. So what we thought we would do on today's show is talk a little bit about some of the guys that moved around within the top 20 without giving away who's still coming here in our top 50 later on this week. Again, allchgo.com/diehard to become a diehard and see all this. But we're going to highlight 3 risers, 3 fallers within the top 20 on today's show to just kind of explain how things are shaking out a little bit. And as Carm mentioned, Joe Alt is the first one we are going to discuss, who is now all the way up to number 5. And I think we had him at 10 before, moving up here quite a bit. And let me explain this a little bit. First of all, this big board is Bears specific. Okay, so when we first put out the 20, I had Brock Bowers pretty high because Brock Bowers to me is one of the top 5 prospects in this draft. And in my opinion, he still is. But where he shakes out on this board as we continue to have this conversation here today, you're going to see that he fell a little bit. And that's because this is a Bears specific board. And you gotta weigh your needs with best player available, and depending on premium positions too. The reality is, after signing Gerald Everett and already having Cole Kmet, Brock Bowers would be a pretty luxurious pick to take that you wouldn't necessarily need. In the meantime, looking at the Bears' needs, I think you guys at this point know how I feel about Talise Fuaga, the offensive tackle from Oregon State. Honestly, I would probably have him, needs aside, 1A, 1B with Joe Alt. The reason why I've moved Joe Alt up above him is because what the Bears already have on their roster. So if this was last year where they didn't have a stud right tackle and they're feeling pretty good about Braxton Jones, and that obviously drafted Darnell Wright, I probably would still go with Fuaga first. But if you draft Fuaga, you either have to project him to play left tackle or you have to move Darnell Wright over to left tackle. Now, quick note on that. Not only do I think that he could do that, I think the Bears would actually be willing to do that if the draft plays out a certain way. However, if I'm going to have 2 guys, 1A, 1B, it's probably smarter to just go ahead and take Joe Alt, plug him in there at left tackle. That prevents you from having to move Darnell Wright. Why move 2 guys around if you don't have to? Just take Joe Alt, and that's the reason why I now have Joe Alt at 5 and Fuaga at 6. Still 2 very highly rated players on our Bears 100.
Interesting when you're talking about it this way. Alt has played left tackle for all but 5 of his collegiate games, 21, 22, and 23. So this is a dude that you absolutely are drafting and putting him at
plug
left tackle.
And play.
Right, and Braxton would be moved to your swing tackle.
Well, and when you talk about Fuaga, and I understand why you're so high on him, Hoge, he's got a nastiness to him. He's like Darnell Wright. He wants to plant you in the turf. But so does Joe Alt. And Joe Alt is a mountain of a man. I mean, when we were at the Combine standing next to this dude, it's unreal how big he is. And he is the type of guy that isn't just trying to block you. He's got that Tevin Jenkins in him where he is trying to drive you not just into the ground, through the ground, under the ground, all the way into the next dimension. Like, that's the type of player he is.
Well, and the thing, so I'm sorry, Nick, but the things that like we hear so big, but they're right. Feet are fluid and instinctive. He can consistently mirror edge-to-edge rush challenges. And then a lot of Bears conversation always about arm extension because we think about Tevin. He doesn't have the long arms. Uses arm extensions to successfully steer arc runners and inside counters off a track. I mean, you've done a ton of research on this too, Nick.
Yeah, and I think the thing, too, like what Adam was saying, why he's maybe higher than Fuaga, too, like if you're thinking about plug-and-play guys, you want somebody that's already naturally at that left tackle position. With Fuaga, you would have to project, right? And I think when you're looking at that 9th overall pick, you want somebody that you're not necessarily – you don't know. Like, if he's going to make that seamless transition, maybe he can. But with Joe Alt, there's no unknown. We know that he can play that position, that he can be a plug-and-play guy, that you're going to get a major upgrade there. So I like how the consensus came to having a guy like Joe Alt maybe over a guy like Fuaga.
But the problem is, Hoge, he's not falling to 9.
No.
Right? I mean...
I think you got to be ready for a lot of different things. Because, we keep having this conversation about if 3 wide receivers are going to go early. Well, if they do, someone else is going to fall. So I wouldn't expect Joe Alt to make it all the way to 9, but it's possible.
Kevin Fishbane watching today who knows that Northwestern played UConn a lot tougher than Illinois did. Hey, which of his weaknesses concern you the most, you Joe Alt draft experts? They talk that he gets off the snap with excessive forward lean in an attempt to lower his pad level, that he's got a high center of gravity, which can make it hard to find emergency breaks, that he's beaten by late movement when feet start to sink too deep, too much waist bending, not enough chin tuck and protection posture. I don't know how deep you guys have gone into this, but is there anything that really concerns you about Mr. Alt?
Well, first of all, I'm going to hold you accountable here. Who are you giving credit to reading that scouting report? Because I know you didn't write that.
That's fair. Thank you for underlining. That is to the great Lance Zierlein, NFL.com. I go to the top of the food mountain when I read these things. So
Lance does a great job.
Very good.
All these people that grind for 365 days deserve credit when they're going to put in this work, because it is crazy. I agree. So where I'm at with Alt, I mean, honestly, to me, it's just a matter of if his height is too much. I mean, he comes in at 6'9", and you're wondering about, guys like Von Miller. I mentioned Robert Quinn on yesterday's show. These guys that can really bend around the edge. And if that's going to be too much of an issue in terms of a leverage thing. But honestly, that's pretty much it. I mean, Joe Alt is just a very clean, solid prospect. 33 starts at left tackle, only allowed 2 sacks over the past 2 seasons. I don't know that he's the most athletic tackle we've ever seen come out of the draft, but, he certainly is good enough. And one of the other positives is he's only going to be a 21-year-old rookie.
That's definitely a positive. I think also, too, maybe like we talk about with his size because he's so tall. I mean, football's leverage battle, right? Whoever the lowest man wins. Joe Alt is naturally just taller and bigger than everybody else. So I think, just making sure he doesn't get high out of his stance on the initial pass sets, just on pass sets. I mean, that would be something that I think he'll adjust to. But, I mean, I think those are things at the NFL level. You can coach that, get the repetition, get the reps in, and I think Joe Alt's going to be just fine.
Well, we were talking last night on After Dark with Corey Wooten and Shane Marsaw, who does a good job breaking it down and breaking down the draft. And that's what they were talking about. Even though with his size, he does get a good pad level, even still with how big he is.
That's impressive on him.
All right, we're going to have to continue moving along here because we got 2 more risers to get before we get to followers. But first, do want to tell you about our friends at CD1 Price Cleaners, where customers save over 30% of the dry cleaning bill by switching to CD1 Price Cleaners. Other cleaners, they charge a different price for every garment. Plus, they have upcharges, and you may pay a different price each time you visit. That's not the case at CD1 Price Cleaners, where they charge one low price for any garment. And yes, that's even sports jerseys that a Devin Hester 23 from our draft party jersey would cost the same. CD1 Price Cleaners has your order ready, the same or next day. Other cleaners, hey, when do you want it? Next week? Great. You hear a lot of that. Not at CD1. Visit chgo.cd1.com, and once you're there, you can pick from an in-store coupon or online pickup and delivery coupon that are options available for you.
Check out CD1 Price Cleaners. And then you got to check out Circa Sportsbook. That they have the tight money line splits, low hold model. Games will strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sportsbook menu. Unlike other sportsbooks, which may use a -115 or even -120 splits, Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to other books. And Circa Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. And they also encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available, just so you can compare the lines of each sports book. And look, Circa has the best customer service. There are real people behind the Circa Sportsbook brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other sportsbooks who use those chatbots. No one likes the chatbots. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Download Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. Text GAMB to 833-234 or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
All right, as we continue with our risers, we go down to Texas and a defensive tackle by the name of Byron Murphy, who, Adam, you've been looking at and you've been getting excited about. We mentioned him a bunch on the show here, but our second riser is Murphy, and we'll get to A.D. Mitchell in a second. But why don't you start with Murphy?
Yeah, look, to me, the more and more I watch the three techniques in this class, he's the head and shoulders the best one, in my opinion. The explosiveness is off the charts. I watched a lot of Texas football this season, and the first guy that would stand out to you usually on that defensive line was T'Vondre Sweat, because he's 6'4", 362 pounds. Like, think about that. He's just a massive human being. So he would kind of get all the attention and the hype, but you know, now you start to talk about both of these guys as draft prospects, and it's pretty obvious to me that Byron Murphy is the better player and the better fit for what the Bears need right now. So the concerns with Byron Murphy is he's small. He's barely over 6 feet. He's just he's 6 feet, half an inch, 297. So a little bit on the smaller end of things. You know, if you look at his RAS score, he comes in, his composite size grade is just rated as poor. It's in the red. It's not very good. However, you look at everything else, speed grade is elite. His agility grade is great, and his explosion grade is great. And that's how he plays on tape, too. And this is a position, too, I think specifically when we talk about these three techniques that shoot the gaps, I'm not as concerned about height, because if you have an explosive get-off and have that speed, you can use your lack of height to your advantage to create leverage. Now, it's unfair to bring Aaron Donald really into the conversation like it's some type of comparison, but really it was Aaron Donald that, you know, set this in motion and understanding. Now, he's obviously the exception probably to the rule, and I think that's the question here with Byron Murphy. Is he big enough? But to me, when you look at what he does on tape, and he does have that speed, he does have that explosiveness. It's not like he's tiny. To me, he's the 1-3 technique that I would take at 9. There's other guys I might consider after a trade back, and certainly if you could trade back and still land Byron Murphy, that'd be great. But when I start to look at some of these edge rushers compared to what Byron Murphy can do as this 3 technique the Bears desperately need, in my opinion, I think it's a great fit.
Yeah, when I was thinking of Byron Murphy and like the size, a guy that came up that we were talking about last year, Adam, was Kalijah Cansey as that 3 tech that was a little bit undersized, but Byron Murphy's got a little bit, he's about 18 pounds heavier though, but still you see the explosion, you see the ability to shoot gaps and to also drive people back and again, use his hands really well. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about the size like you. I think that if Eberflus would have an opportunity to acquire a guy like Byron Murphy, that would be like your true 3 tech, shoot through the gap, be that engine for the defense. But Kalijah Cansey was the first guy that I thought of in terms of being smaller size that wasn't Aaron Donald, because again, there's only one Aaron Donald.
But you say, you know, Eberflus would love a guy, but does he? Because I think we've seen that he has a type on the interior defense. He's said it as much that arm length is a big,
True.
stress for them because,
And for Mark.
Yes.
and Mark loves a good wingspan. We know this. So, because Matt Eberflus said, offensive linemen have short arms, so that's something you can't teach. So does that kind of rule him out, in my opinion? Because you look at, they brought in Jha-Quan Dexter because
Definitely
of
fits
the
that.
size,
Yeah.
exactly, and the length. So does this guy really fit that mold, even as talented as he is?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, if you got one more thought, you can have it.
Well,
I
I
wanna
just
keep it
think
moving.
a lot of the prospects that Ryan Poles has drafted, I mean, they fit that RAS score, and it does fit the intangibles, not only the how fast they run, but it is the physical intangibles as well. So I think from the traits that he shows on film, it fits. But again, like you said, you cannot teach arm length. That's what you're God given. So it might rule somebody like that out. But I think what you see on tape could be the exception to some of those physical traits that some players just don't have.
You also can't teach speed. 4.3, 4.40 as we stay in Texas with one receiver that's moved up the Hoge board here. Our CHGO board, A.D. Mitchell. Hoagie, this is a guy that 2 years at Georgia, then over to Texas, dealt with some injuries. But what are you starting to fall in love with here?
Yeah, Adonai Mitchell here, the wide receiver out of Texas, was somebody who actually wasn't even in the original top 20, and now I got him all the way up to 14. Now, I'm not going to put him in the conversation at number 9, but if the Bears move back or if they add a second-round pick and he's still there, because I think A.D. Mitchell kind of falls in this category of, where exactly is he going to get drafted, back half of the first round, early half of the second round. Kind of the same thing as what we were just talking about with Tavondre Sweat kind of stealing some of the shine from Byron Murphy on this Texas team. But at the Combine, everyone was talking about Xavier Worthy, who ran that 4.21, set the record for 40-yard dash. And meanwhile, A.D. Mitchell has way better size, and he ran a 4.34. So it's not like he's slow. That 4.34 number at his size was very, very good, as he came in at 6'2 and a quarter, 205. So this is the type of guy who's got plenty of size. He's what I really like about his route running. He's got a knack for changing up speeds in his routes to get open. He creates separation. He's really good on third down too. He tracks the ball really well. I mean, I'm not going to say he's at Rome Odunze's level in that aspect, but he's up there with Rome in terms of the better wide receivers in this draft and how they track the ball in the air and adjust to the ball. So, you can go for Xavier Worthy's speed as much as you want, but I'll tweet this out maybe even today. There's a rep against Washington from this season where Worthy and Mitchell are facing the exact same type of coverage and they run the exact same route. And one of them is open and the other one is not. Guess which one was open? Mitchell was open. Worthy just sort of ran and stopped. He didn't really have any pacing in his route to set the defender up who's playing off. And unfortunately, the ball went to Worthy and not to Mitchell. Quarterback threw it to the wrong guy, and it was an incomplete pass. But if he had thrown left instead of right, it would have been a first down. So there's one rep from one game that I think accurately shows the difference between these two players.
Well, and also with Adonai Mitchell, I really like just watching his game against Kansas State. He will come back to the football. Like, he has a bit of physicality to his game, being at 6'2" and having that speed to where, like, he's not just getting bodied by bigger corners. He's able to fight through the contact, come back to the football, but he has that blazing speed that corners have to respect that. Because if they don't, I mean, he's easily a guy that could run past you. But the ball tracking, too, that stood out. There was a play also in that Kansas State game where it's an over-the-shoulder catch. It's definitely not an easy one by any means, but extends the hands, connects the pinkies, comes down, rolls over, and is able to complete the catch. So Donnie Mitchell, complete wide receiver. I like a lot of the traits that he brings to an offense.
All right, let's move into some of our fallers here as we maybe break this up a little bit because just for time considerations here. But, hey, look, a lot of people have keyed in on Dallas Turner, and Whether or not he'll be there at 9, of course, is a significant question. But on our board, he's going down here. So you don't like the fit is the main reason, correct, Adam?
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been struggling with Dallas Turner. And it wouldn't surprise me as I watch a little bit more on him if he actually goes back up a little bit. At first I looked at him and looked at his size and was probably looking more of some of his highlights when he was actually lined up as a defensive end. And 6'4", 242. I'm like, all right. I mean, he can do this as the number 2 Bears defensive end if they want him there. I think he can be scheme versatile. And I think I originally wrote in my first write-up of him, and probably still need to update this, I called him a great fit in Matt Eberflus's defense. The more and more I watched Alabama, including the Rose Bowl, and I'm still trying to get some clarity on this, like he just wasn't out there on the field for chunks of that game at times. So I don't know if he was dealing with something. And I kind of question the motor a little bit, not just because he was out for chunks of that game, but even when you're watching him on film, he's not always chasing from the backside. I like Jared Verse a little bit more when it comes to that constant motor. And quite frankly, just that hand on the ground 4-3 defensive end. Dallas Turner is going to be a good player in this league. I like his length. I like his versatility. I mean, Alabama lined him up everywhere, pretty much in every single gap at times. But the more and more I watch that, he's also kind of like he's sort of raily thin built. I don't know if he has that bulk that you ideally want to with the hand on the ground coming off the edge. So again, not saying I don't like Dallas Turner. It's just the more and more I watched him, looked at what I think the Bears will want at that position. That's why he's fallen here just a little bit for me. And also bringing this back to Byron Murphy, part of the reason why I like Byron Murphy, I'm not sure I like Jared Verse or Dallas Turner at number 9 for the Bears. So if I have to address the defense, I think I'm going to take that guy that I'm a little bit more convinced is going to be a prototypical 3 technique, because to me, that's actually slightly more of a need than that opposite defensive end to Montez Sweat, because I know I've said this a lot, but Sweat's already there. You can help create pressure, whether that's coming from the inside or outside. You just need one more guy at either of those 2 spots. So I'm going to take the guy I feel better about it, and that's Byron Murphy, and that's partially why Turner's fallen here a little bit for me.
It's interesting. This is just because the only thing that really stood out to me when it comes to Dallas Turner, who's obviously very talented. I mean, we're picking nits when we're talking about risers and falls within the top 15. Not to say that they're bad players, but Rick Spielman, former GM, he once said on his podcast that he would take Dallas Turner over Will Anderson, and that's always stuck out to me. It's one man's opinion, but it's something that's always stuck out to me because that's a lofty statement.
Well, and when we're guessing at this, like what the Bears are going to do, and obviously we don't know, and maybe the Bears don't know, depending, even if the board fell exactly the way they wanted to, maybe they know exactly what they do. I don't know. My point is this. Sorry, that was long-winded. The Bears last year waited all the way into training camp and signed Yannick Ngakoue, and people were like, when are you going to sign Ngakoue? When are you going to sign him? And then finally they did. And then Ngakoue, we saw exactly why he was out there that long, because he wasn't a guy that was going to get to the quarterback by himself. He was somebody that who looked a whole lot better when Montez was there because he could pick up the garbage that was left over. He's around, and he would get some sacks, which is exactly how they could go about it again, depending on how their board falls. You're not going to get an elite guy, but you can get somebody who can help. So, I don't know. Those options are going to be there. At any rate, I think it's just super interesting to see what the Bears are going to prioritize here. Oh, you want to stick for one more here? We'll do the last 2, or do you want to do it now? Yep. Okay.
That's fine.
Nick. Okay, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, real quickly before we get to those last 2 fallers that Adam Hoge's going to tell us about. I got to tell everybody about Miller Lite, and what are we going to do with our picks? I mean, it's a great question. It's anyone's guess. And we've seen some wild selections over the years, but there's only one selection that every football fan can share, and that's, of course, an ice-cold Miller Lite. And look, there's so many fond memories that I have of Miller Lite, and whether it's draft parties or watching Iowa take down LSU, Miller Lite was in my hand there. just enjoying those amazing moments. But the draft has definitely changed over the years. But what hasn't is Miller Lite is still the perfect beer for the draft. And don't forget, Miller Lite is a proud sponsor of the Bears. So bear down. And Miller Lite knows that beer lovers want their light beer to taste like beer. That's why they brew a light beer that's light on calories, not taste. Because what's the point of having a beer if you can't taste it? So till kickoff comes around again, enjoy the beer that tastes like the season. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/CHGO football, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
Well, and I think this show today kind of is putting on full display why right now is as good a time as ever to become a CHGO diehard. This is the exclusive kind of content and access you get is this Bears 100 draft guide, getting a little peek behind the curtain here today. But more of the draft guide is going to be filled out as we get closer, 23 days away from the draft. Get a free shirt right out the gate when you become a diehard. If you go to allchgo.com/diehard, you can sign up. Discounts on future purchases on merchandise or events, including our draft party coming up in 23 days at Joe's on Weed Street. So a lot of different advantages you have, including Adam Hoge's newsletter that he puts out weekly. So these are the kind of things when you become a diehard that gives you the special access, not just for CHGO Bears, but every team we cover across the board for CHGO Sports. So once again, head over to allchgo.com/diehard and sign up today.
Appreciate all our diehards. Appreciate you checking out the show today. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. See if we can cross over the more than 100 subscribers in one day that we did yesterday. We greatly appreciate all the support. All right. This, again, is a reminder that these followers are just the Bears board. It's not that we don't like the talent. But when Brock Bowers is on there, I feel like they need to underline that again because we all love Brock Bowers. I think Brock Bowers is going to be a hell of a football player. But it would be as Hoge put it, a luxury at this point with the Bears tight end room. It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense that the Bears would be drafting Bowers.
Yeah, look, when we dropped our top 20, that was before the Bears signed Gerald Everett. So it's been a little bit. And I want to emphasize that if I was doing a overall just straight up big board for the entire league, Brock Bowers would be in my top 5. That's where I had him originally in our first one. I've dropped him all the way down to 16, though, in our Bears 100. And it's just about need. And the way you got to think about this, and the way I always try to think about this is, if I'm on the clock at number 9, what do I want to do here? Right? So that's the same conversation we just had with Byron Murphy versus Dallas Turner. And I'm just like sitting there, okay, I'm on the clock, both are available. Like, I'm going to take that 3 technique right there. I just think I like the player a little bit better. I like the fit a little bit better. And the more and more I think about sitting on the clock at 9 with, like, let's just say hypothetically, you've already drafted Caleb, Marvin Harrison's off the board, Roma Dunze's off the board, Malik Neighbors is off the board, Joe Alt's off the board, maybe even unexpectedly Fuaga's off the board. Like, so your offensive tackles are gone, your wide receivers are gone. All these guys, you more of a positional need. You're like, oh, do I take Brock Bowers here? I'm like still in that situation. I don't know if I would. I'd rather trade back. So if you go in, if you become a diehard and you check out our board right now, I think you're going to find that the players listed ahead of Brock Bowers, which, by the way, I even got Dallas Turner 1 spot ahead of him, would be my preference in that spot. Because it came down to it, everything I just said about Dallas Turner, I'd probably still take him because the Bears need more edge rushing help than they do another tight end. So that's the only thing with Bowers. Tight ends always take a year too. And I don't think that that's necessarily a luxury you have right now. That's the only reason. Otherwise, Brock Bowers, matchup problems, sudden in his releases, outstanding route runner, makes contested catches. And I will say this, if the blocking's a concern at all for you, with what the Bears already have on the roster, like, he could be that true U tight end and fit just fine with Cole Kmet. That's one of the reasons why I still had him high before the Bears went out and signed Gerald Everett.
You know, one other thing real quickly on Brock Bowers, like, you draft him in the top 10. You're also giving him, basically he would be almost one of the highest paid like tight ends outside of like the big main guys. So you also have to factor that into the equation if you are really going to look into drafting Brock Bowers that high. But great football player, like everything you just mentioned there, Adam.
Excellent point by you, Nick. And just a reminder, too, the ideal scenario for the Bears is that they get to trade down at least a little bit and still get their guy like they did last year with Darnell Wright. Nobody right here really celebrated, oh, they got a 4th-round pick going down one. I think that's probably how I reacted. That 4th-round pick turned into Keenan Allen, man. If we had said at the time they're going back one pick, they're getting Keenan Allen in 2024, and it would have been talked about a whole lot differently at the time. Yep. So to me, that's what it feels like the Bears would like to do. Go ahead. Yep.
Just to clarify, it wasn't the same 4th-round pick, but since the Bears had 2 of them, it allowed them to. Right. I mean, they might have still made the deal anyway, but having 2 4th-round picks helped.
No doubt.
All right, so let's go to our last guy, and that's actually a name that I'm surprised to see on here, Roman Wilson, who at one point we were getting pretty excited about, but he has made our fallers. How come, Hoge?
Well, just because, guys like Mitchell I did more work on, and this is kind of a replacement with Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson was one of those guys that got boosted in January with a really good Senior Bowl, playing in the college football playoff, winning a national championship, going to Mobile, having a great week, and those things all still apply. I just think that I don't know, guys. I had him at number 20. I have him at 22 now. So like, this is part of the segment. We're just explaining. None of these guys on this fallers, guys. If these guys sucked, I wouldn't have them on the list at all, right? So these are all guys I like. We're just moving the pieces around a little bit, just like you would on an actual draft board in one of these NFL facilities. And I think with Roman Wilson, you love the speed, you love the home run ability. I'm not sure his route running though. And ability to track the ball in the air. I'm not going to, the more and more I watch like Adonai Mitchell, like there's a difference there to me. And there's also a difference in size. Mitchell's bigger. So almost every box you check, except maybe I'd probably give Roman Wilson a little bit more of an edge in terms of character, maybe some of the risks there. But everything on the field, I think you like a little bit more about Mitchell than Roman Wilson, who I'm still very high on. So I just think Roman Wilson is going to fall into this area where the Bears don't have a pick, and is probably closer to more of a 2nd-round talent than I originally had him on that first batch of 20 players we put out there.
Well, and also, Adam, I think there's just so many wide receivers in this draft, like Ladd McConkey, Ricky Pearsall. Like, there's so many good guys that may get clumped into that same cluster of prospects to where, like, even if he is moving down our board, like, how far away is he from, like, that next guy? So I think he's also, just byproduct, he's in a very stacked class, too. So even if you don't get a Roman Wilson, there are several other guys that can also fill what you're looking for at the wide receiver position.
Well, the Bears have picked 75 and 122, and as we say goodbye to you, Hoge, I'll throw you a guy that maybe they would be looking at down there, who's Jha-Quan Jackson out of Tulane, who I did my 5 Carm things to like about this later round candidate. He's a 2-time nominee for the Paul Hornung Award, which, by the way, Paul Hornung watch list, which goes to the most versatile player in college football, which is something that Adam Hoge loves. You love that, Nick. You love that, Greg. He can do the punt return. He can do the kick return. He can catch the ball. He can get the ball out of the backfield. He had an 87-yard touchdown catch following a Caleb Williams interception in the Cotton Bowl. It was the only pick of the day for Caleb. He had 5 touchdown passes in that game. Don't worry, Bears fans. He had 37 completions. Tulane did come back and beat USC in that game in a wild game, 46-45. But he did have an 87-yard touchdown, so maybe those two could become buddies. 5 seasons, 55 games total. I like dudes who have played a lot of football. Mm-hmm. He, had the COVID season, didn't leave, went through it. He had a 90-yard punt return versus Memphis. You like to see that. And we got some good bloodlines here. 7 siblings. His uncle, one of my favorites, NFL Hall of Famer, Ed Reed. Let's go. Hoge, did I just sell you on Jha-Quan? Bears.
Yeah.
122.
4th round, I like it. No, I mean, and I wonder if it's guys like that who could see their stock get boosted here a little bit with the new kickoff rule. So that's something to keep in mind too. Like the speed, and Bears have had some luck with 2 lane guys, so maybe this will be another one.
Yeah, Matt Forte, Darnell Mooney.
Remember when there was like some Forte slander on the show and Nick freaked out?
Oh yeah, I didn't enjoy the Forte slander.
You did not like that at
and
all.
the chat agreed with me too.
Oh yeah, they wanted to kill me.
Yeah,
that
we
day.
don't play that.
I'm vaguely remember that. Who was slandering Forte though?
Right,
That's
I didn't
ridiculous.
slander him. I'm overstating it. I just said that he was, he was a little dull. He wasn't the most exciting player to watch. And Nick was like, I had 17 Forte jerseys. What are you talking about?
I did have one, but that's okay.
You're just saying that because he wasn't the greatest interview.
Oh, there's
He
something
wasn't-
behind it.
He was. I don't want to get into Forte slander. He wasn't the
You
greatest.
have
interview.
100 catches in a season. How is that dull? Out of the
He
back.
was like the modern. He's like what running backs turned into. Like that's what you
You are
want out
not
of a running
chanting
back.
boring about Matt Forte.
I am. I absolutely am.
No, because this is why we know how Carm really grades players, scouts players.
you're
It's
nailing
off the
it.
interviews. Carm didn't like him when he was a post-game guy on NBC
Didn't have a
Sports
crush
Chicago,
on him in the
probably.
locker room.
He was terrible. One of the worst interviews of all time. But come on, man, name me some. I need a highlight reel of some sweet Forte moves where I'm like, oh my god, that's sweet as hell.
His first game of his career against Indianapolis Colts on Sunday Night Football, where he makes a cut in the middle of the field and goes for like a 60-plus yard touchdown.
Yeah. How about his London touchdown?
Oh, yeah, that
against
was-
Tampa Bay.
Let's have a party afterwards and watch Forte tape. I'm down.
Let's do it.
I'm willing to remember. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
All right.
So Hoge,
Good party.
I did have a question
Hoge's
from.
gotta go, but go
okay,
ahead.
that's fine. Before we jet, I did have a question from one of our new diehards.
Ooh.
Maybe walking through to some of the people that are new to the website exactly how they find the Bears 100 draft guide within our system.
Great question. I have no idea. Email Kevin Kadek.
Okay.
No, I'm
there
just,
you go,
no,
Nick.
I'm just kidding. I would have to look. It's under
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot here.
allchgo.com. You go to Bears.
Bears.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll figure it out. It's a good question though. It's under our diehard.
See, because we have like we're a part of it already, so we have a different version than what everyone else sees. But
Well, that was a stupid question. Figure it out yourself, Nick.
Yeah, Nick.
why is this my
Yeah,
fault?
great.
Not you, the new diehard.
Like the show
The other
started
Nick.
late because it's my fault, and now it's my fault again.
All right.
I don't know.
Hoagie Cat, we'll see you back in studio tomorrow.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow.
All right, there we go. Do you need clarity on that? Do I need to go into the office of upper
Yeah, go
management?
figure it out.
All right,
We'll wrap this show up.
Well, no, I can't leave you today. I'm having such a good time with you. Steven, did you see what I texted you, by the way?
I did not know.
Check that out because we need it before the end of the show. And
Boy.
What is this?
Yes, it's fantastic.
Is this real?
Yes. No.
Okay.
But, I mean, sure, it is.
Wait, it is real?
It's absolutely real.
It's not real.
It couldn't be more real. It's the most real thing ever. It'll make its way, hopefully, to the show today and or tomorrow. All right.
I'm scared.
Anniversary day.
Oh yeah.
Would you like to?
Anniversary day for me this year is on the start of training camp.
Okay, you know what's crazy? That's July 20th, right?
Yep.
I didn't when we were talking about that day. I'm like, man, wow, that's it's training camp, your anniversary. That's my Stephanie and I. That's when
Started dating
Yep.
on
so
the 20th.
That's gonna be
It's a magical day.
yeah. So that's gonna be something.
Probably going to hit up Bavette's.
And what I'm actually talking about, though, is you two are so lovely. This date in Bears history, not necessarily an anniversary day, but the Bears acquired Jay Cutler, a fifth-round pick for the Broncos, in exchange for my guy, Kyle Orton, 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick. As we asked the question on this fine April the 2nd, when all of Bears Twitter or whatever at the time went crazy, the greatest day in Bears history, did the Bears actually win the trade? Are we really asking that question? I guess we are.
Yeah, I wrote that question. Yeah, we're asking the question.
We are not asking that question, but we're asking that
51
question.
and 51 is a starter, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
Let's stir people up more. All I do is stir people up, chat. We lost that trade. It was exhausting having him here.
I enjoyed.
How many
Jay.
playoff games did they win with him? 1.
I was at
Was
the
it his
playoff
fault completely? No. Was he a pain in the ass? Yes. Should they have signed him to an extension? No. Was he a good leader? No. Was he inconsistent? Yes. Was he the epitome of 500? Yes. Did he have tremendous arm talent? Yes. Would we redo the Jay Cutler experiment for the next 10 years? No, we wouldn't. Anybody?
So what exactly did we give up for him again?
I
We
got
gave
that
up
right
Kyle Orton, who was winning football games, by the way, at the time, and nobody seemed to like him.
It was a 2009 first-round pick. That first-round pick turned into Robert Ayers, a defensive end. A 2009 third-round pick. That pick was traded to the Steelers. That pick turned into Mike Wallace, the wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we also have to remember, though, when we talk about what it turned into, like in terms of did the Bears win the trade, you want to say, okay, this is what it turned into for the other teams. But the Bears would not have picked those players. So, like, I think we have to look at it from a different level, too, of had they not made the trade, what they could have done with those picks.
I mean, I think there's a scenario where both teams win trades, to your point. And in this particular case, I mean, the season after the Bears make that trade, they're 7-9. So that the future first-round pick they end up sending away ends up being the number 11 pick in the draft. The Broncos, they made some moves with that number 11 pick. They traded several times, up and down. At the end of it, they turned it into Demaryius Thomas.
He's pretty good.
And Eric Decker was a third-round pick that they also got.
Okay, I'm having a hard time just getting past the whole Jay Cutler experience. And I know there's a lot of Cutler fans out there. But, come on.
If he wasn't injured in the NFC Championship game, do you think the Bears are going to the Super Bowl against the Packers?
That's fair. That's
like,
fair. And
I've always wondered that.
Look, that's fair. They got
Todd Collins playing in the – oh, God, that was terrible.
Right, and the one thing I will give Jay credit for is, like, and he got a lot of slander there. Oh, wait, Jay's just sitting out. No. Dude was tough as hell.
He was.
Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah.
Criticizing him for having a torn MCL and not playing through it.
That whole thing was ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is, look, they had a great defense at the time. I mean, he just
if
too
he just
inconsistent,
didn't
man, and a bad leader.
And the thing is, like, with that defense, if you had just turned the ball over a little less, like, what could have happened? But that just wasn't Jay Cutler's game. Like, if there's three guys around Brandon Marshall, like, he's going to try to test that because he thinks he has the arm strength to get it to wherever it needs to be. And at times it would work, but when you have all the talented defensive players and the running game that you did, like, you didn't always have to play hero ball. But I felt like that's what Jay Cutler did a lot of the time. And it also didn't help. He had, 5 different offensive coordinators, like,
right.
all the fluctuation. But in the end, ultimately it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't the biggest Jay fan, and that's putting it mildly, by the time he finished his career with the Bears because of all the reasons you stated. I think he's a total jerk, and I'm being 100% honest with that. If he came in this studio and you guys did an interview with, you guys could have him. I can't sit next to the guy.
That'd be dope.
I don't like his attitude. Anybody that's ever said he's a jerk, it lives up to the billing. I watched the way he interacted with fans and players at training camp. I have no respect for him. And for people that found that to be cute, you know, I know my guys Waddle and Sylvie love him. I don't find that kind of attitude endearing. I never have. I never will, not just with players, but people that think that being a jerk to everyone, that don't care attitude, I don't sign up
100%. And that entire locker room, by the way, when Josh McCown was going, that entire receiver group, they wanted Josh McCown to play. It was a huge fight in the city at the time. You got to go back. No, Josh McCown is connecting with that locker room. They are. I mean, the dude threw 20 touchdowns and 1 pick. It was on fire. Yet the city of Chicago at the time, got to go back to Cuddy. No, you don't. And that locker room would appreciate it if you didn't.
Now that being said, you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers is a jerk. But you know what? He can sling the rock, and he won a Super Bowl, so he got away with a little more. And if Jay had won a Super Bowl the year he tore his MCL in the NFC Championship, I mean, they could have beat the Steelers. They beat the Steelers earlier that same season. So had he won a Super Bowl, I'd be the first person building him a statue, put his attitude to the side, and the kind of person I think he is. So, like, those are two different things. He's a tough SOB as a quarterback. I mean, we all remember when he ran into the end zone on the Lions and he got, like, helicoptered. He took hits. He talked shit. And so that part of it, like I can sign off on as a fan, and he is the best arm talent we've ever had at quarterback ever.
Easily, yeah.
He's the best quarterback of my lifetime. That's not debatable. Now, the leader aspect, that's where he was missing. But so in terms of did they win the trade, yeah, they almost got to a Super Bowl with him, and then the next year they were 7-3, and he hurts his thumb against the Chargers trying to run back a guy on a pick six, and they were hot as hell that year. The year before when they went to the Super Bowl, they were on fire. People forget they had Johnny Knox, Earl Bennett, and Devin Hester as their 3 wide receivers. And at the end of the year, they played the New York Jets at the peak of their defensive tenure with Darrelle Revis and Antonio Cromartie. And they tore up.
I was at that
tore
game.
up
Yeah.
at Soldier Field. They tore them up.
Yep.
And that was Revis Island at its peak. And you had Devin Hester and Johnny Knox spinning those guys out. So that was Jay Cutler spinning the rock there. So I can talk crap about Jay, the person who I don't have respect for, but the player, he was phenomenal. It just timing-wise, as it always has here in this city, it never seems to line up for our quarterbacks, and let's hope this time around it does.
Perfect ending right there. And look, I'm just thinking about comps for Cuddy. Like Matthew Stafford, supremely talented, incredible arm talent and toughness too. But Matthew Stafford in Detroit was a great guy to the fans there. It's unbelievable the haze that he's getting from them. It's completely ridiculous.
So stupid.
And he was a winner, and it was because of the Lions' pathetic organization that didn't work out. And then he got a chance to play on a team with talent who had things going for him, and he won a Super Bowl. Whereas Cuddy, it's different. This is a little unfair. But he leaves here, goes down to Miami for one more year. What's the highlight from him as a Dolphin? Standing there and watching a play and not moving. That's the one play that I think most people remember as a Dolphin. Now, he was past it at that point, and I'm not disputing the talent. But it's even more annoying when you're that talented and you just impale yourself because for whatever reason, you never got control of your own ego. And now he's hanging out in a
I forget what show he does now.
treehouse with cameras and trying to hunt down whatever he's doing.
That's true.
Go Jay. All right. And you're right, Richie Mack. If Jay won a Super Bowl, this conversation would be a lot different. It would.
No doubt.
He'd still be a jerk. I mean, ask Packer fans. Aaron Rodgers is maybe he is the greatest quarterback ever. I mean, I think you'll fight through Brett Favre versus Aaron Rodgers, but
the Packers were
Packer
done.
fans hate him.
Well, they were done with him.
They hate him.
But he
so
won. That's
you
the
say
thing.
it's
That's such a
different. Yeah,
difference.
no, it'd be different because we'd revere the championship. But if you're a jerk, you're a jerk. It doesn't matter how great you are at what you do.
We'd all sign up for jerks who help us win. And this is not the same thing, and I'm switching sports again, but like Dennis Rodman was an asshole. He pushed Scottie Pippen into the basket support. He dumped Jordan on his ass a million times. He was a dirty player. He got here. The Bulls won 3 championships with him. He's a hero. We love him.
Yeah.
So if you win, he
can
won because of Mike, but if you win,
You
we'll
can make
love
do
you.
with that. Exactly.
And it's not the same,
Right, but
obviously.
there's a difference between being a jerk on the court or in the field as a competitor and being a jerk as a person to other people. Like,
Yeah,
do you have evidence
that-
that Dennis was a jerk
I-
to
that's-
people at the
that-
bars
that-
and stuff? Like
that's
when
totally
he was,
fair. That's
Yeah.
totally fair. Although he wasn't the easiest guy to deal with. He was moody as hell.
Doesn't seem like
You
it.
know,
Yeah.
sometimes he was great. Sometimes it was complete opposite.
Frank, does Braggs know he's a jerk too? Yes, I do. I'm an asshole. I know this. So that's yes.
Speaking of, we have a special treat for Gregory for all his assholeness.
He's gonna hate this.
This is
Oh,
we
no.
we
Gonna hate
we
this.
have
That scares me.
exclusive video / picture of Braggs celebrating at the Elite Eight, and
So
there he
was it a
is.
kilt or a dress?
Those look like basketball shorts.
God damn, I'm busty.
You look.
Well,
There it is. The great Greg Braggs.
What the hell?
Wait,
Who is this Photoshop
You
from?
did this, Mark?
Who's the guy with the rack that I'm photoshopped into? Is this
Listen,
AI?
That's
Did you AI
I didn't do
Braggs with
No,
a
this-
rack
This
at the
was really
Purdue
good.
game?
Whoever did this did a really good job on Photoshop.
so
I can say that.
Busty rags.
that is. Should we give credit? I think he would be okay with me giving him credit. But it's my
Yes.
guy Luke. Off
Luke
of
Stuckmeyer?
yes.
be
Well,
funny.
not Luke Stuckmeyer. but a great fan of the show and a supporter on Twitter. And he sent me that fine photo, and I thought it was good enough that it made the show because that's you. That was you. Even
Yes, that was.
job
I
to your
was
Purdue
full out
Boilermakers.
cheerleading here this last weekend in Detroit. It was wonderful. It was a great time.
are you in the Final Four?
Yes,
We are going to the Final
Hawkeyes
Four,
are in
baby.
the Final Four.
That's
Okay,
right.
Congratulations.
I'm excited, very excited. And then, hey, Caitlin
Clark?
Clark drops 41,
41 and 12.
41 and 12. You know,
got two
Zach
teams
Edey
still.
had 40 and 15, both
Big
Big
Ten.
Ten, getting to the Final Four
Hell yeah.
So when does Purdue play next?
Saturday.
And when does Iowa play?
Friday night.
And when does Northwestern play?
Oh.
That was first Cuddy Hayes. Good.
Let's get a busty
Good
Mark
recovery.
Carman picture out.
Oh, let's not do
Hey.
any more busty anything.
A busty Mark Carman picture with a good wingspan.
Well, so before we get to Super Chats, I would just, if we talk about me and goats like myself, I would like to shout out the Chicago parking attendants. You guys,
Oh, yeah.
you guys are the complete goats of the world. Because when you park beautifully in my neighborhood, and it's till 9:15 that you have to move your car, and you guys are there at 9:16 somehow, some way, just I don't know, lurking, waiting for an opportunity to tow someone. You know, that's an incredible accomplishment. So I'd like to thank you for being incredibly prompt on your game in towing me this morning. When I got there at 9:20 and my car was gone at 9:16. So
Terrible.
Congratulations to the parking goats for being the worst people on earth, but yet doing their jobs and teaching us lessons that bending the rules can cause you problems in many walks of life. So I can't wait to make my donation to the city of Chicago, which I've repped 1,000 minutes on this show, begging for great things here, who continue.
See, if you'd
stick
had
it
the
to me.
mayor on, if you'd have gotten the mayor on this show, maybe we could work something out for you.
Yeah, well, I'm actually thinking about taking this one to court and going and like, you know, everything that goes on here, you would think there'd be a drop of grace, but that's not how this works. And I'm here for grace. If you don't want to give me any, that's great. But I just want to underline what goes on here. Anyway, way to go. Great towing job. You're on your game. You waited perfectly, and you got me. And I would say it will never happen again, but it's happened so many times already that it probably will. All right, time for Super Chats.
Real quick, how much does it cost to
It's
for
like
all that?
all in, it's like $250.
Oh.
Something around those lines.
So this is a first for me doing the show. We do not have any super chats.
Wow.
There were a couple comments here that I liked. We got Willie Pete, who must have been calling a shot here. This was way before you even brought it up. Jha-Quan Jackson is going to be a Bear on day 3.
Wow.
There it
Seeing to
is.
the future.
Willie
beat you to
Pete, my guy, no Super Chats.
That's sad. That
is a
makes me sad.
That is a sad day for us.
That makes me
We're
sad.
going to have to look in the mirror and realize.
What did we do wrong? This is on us.
Well, we'll have to have a post-productions
We'll talk
meeting
about
here.
it.
Hoge leaves for one day, and this is what happens.
That, it could be a Hoge situation and or
We,
I don't-
I can
No.
think of some other things.
I don't want your super chats anyway.
We just
Yeah.
got a super chat. so
Super
take it
chat,
back.
James Kenny.
Thank you, James.
To the rescue. $2, we can get a half a coffee.
Yes.
you could put it towards your parking.
There
or your
we
towing.
go. $1.99 to the parking gods.
And then Peyton Garcia said he's glad to be back on the Diehard train. So
Let's
he's
go,
re-up.
Peyton.
Welcome back, Peyton.
And,
Oh, wait, we
what's
got-
your- oh, here they
Uh-oh,
come.
we-
Here they
we
come.
have
Here they
some
come. About
supers.
damn time. Chicago loved Rodman for being a winner. CHGO loves Carm for being a loser. Trade him for a donut. Philip Pizzatola.
That's my Pizzatoli. I love you, Pizzatoli.
I feel like Pizzatola is like your Newman from Seinfeld. Are you
That's
familiar with the
pretty
reference?
good.
Yeah.
Pizzatola.
I could go for a donut right now, actually.
Do we have
kinda-
new diehards?
Yeah.
We do not. No more loofs?
No more loofs.
No
What about
more
Nick?
loofs.
Nick. Oh, yeah.
What about Nick?
Remember? Nick?
Is that in there? Okay.
I don't see no Nick.
I don't see no Nick.
Here,
He
I'll
told
go
me
check
he's
and
a
see if
new
we have more
sign-up.
Diehards while you guys read this next super chat.
All right, $5 from the Orozco's Living Life. I met Rodman in Vegas. He was looking for the restroom, so I guided him. On his way,
Back, I asked for a picture. He said, fuck your picture. LOL.
there it is.
Wow.
So that's the one thing. So
That's alcohol for you right there.
Dennis Rodman once came to my hometown in St. John, Indiana for an autograph thing. And after it was over, he went to a nearby bar that I frequented back in the day. And so I go over there because somebody told me, hey, Dennis Rodman's at this bar. So I go over there and drank with him all night. And the one thing, so he was great the whole time. You could talk old stories and do the fanboy thing, and he was totally cool talking about the glory days. But there were two things he didn't want to do. He didn't want to take a picture. He didn't want to do an autograph. He just wanted to sit there, hang out, and you could sit at the table the whole night. Anybody.
I'll take that.
And that was
I'll totally take that.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
awesome.
so for me, like I saw that with obviously he's being sharp with you, but from my standpoint, he was pretty cool to chill with, and it was obviously growing up watching Dennis Rodman, be able to have some drinks and bullshit with them. I did do a toast, and when I did the toast, it was there are good ships, there are wood ships, there are ships that sail the sea, but the best ships are friendships, and may they always be. And Dennis was drunk and was like, I want that toast. Text me that toast right now. And I was like, well, I don't have your number, Dennis. And he was like, take my number down right now and text me that quote or that toast. And so that's how I got Dennis Rodman's number. And then the even crazier part of the story was, so we get to about 2 a.m. I'm drinking with him all night. I ain't leaving. It's Dennis Rodman. And he's walking out of the bar. I'm walking out too. And there was like this moment where I had to make a decision in my life. And it's time to go home. Mm-hmm. And Dennis is like, they had a party bus, him and his crew. And he's like, come with us. And I don't know what came over me because I am not a responsible person at all. But it was like one of those crossroads. I'm by myself. Like I'm not with any friends. I'm with Dennis and his friends. Do I go home now or do I get on this party bus?
I can't
with
believe
Dennis
you didn't get on
Rodman?
the party bus.
And I said, we'll see you later, Dennis. And I do regret it to this day. But I didn't know where, like, this could end up. I had no idea where I was going to end up. And then I'd have to have, like, Jenny pick me up from Chicago, some Chicago strip club or something. Like, I was like, I had no idea where it was going. So,
I mean, this is amazing, by the way, as the show continues on, getting great Rodman stories from you.
That's amazing.
And Nagy's back out of nowhere. Crystal just popped up. This
Bring
is
him back after hours a little bit.
We do have diehards as well.
Oh, we do.
All right, Kevin just whispered them in my ear.
is one of them Nick?
One of them is Nick.
I knew it.
Well, when you talk about Nick, you
This
could
is
say
an
something.
impromptu,
Nick Verha.
unscripted diehard read.
Nick
for you.
Verha from Germany, good buddy that I met when
You
Bears
hooked him-
played in London, went to Tottenham
Did
Stadium.
I meet him at the United Center?
You met Nick at the United Center, my
Nick
friend.
is
Wow.
Nick is Mr. Energy. Nick wears his heart on his sleeve. Nick has love to the end of the earth for CHGO and sports and the Bears and the Bulls. My guy
awesome.
Nick. Who else?
We have Andrew.
Andrew. You want to talk about Andrew? I want me to talk about Andrew. You want me to talk about
Well,
Andrew?
this is your thing,
Andrew
baby.
Garfield?
Giving you an opportunity.
No, this
to-
is your thing,
No,
baby.
okay.
Come on now.
Well, so Andrew once picked me up junior year of high school. Said,
This
Carm?
Andrew
Yes.
or a different Andrew?
well, in spirit, this Andrew.
Oh, okay.
He picked me up. He said, Carm, we're not going to school today. My dad will call you out. Let's ride down in my Pontiac Fiero. Let's listen to Tom Petty. Let's go to the East Bank Club and let's shoot some hoops. And that's what the Pompous kids did back in the day. As we missed school and I graduated with a less than stellar GPA, which wasn't great.
How much weed were you and Andrew smoking?
I was a good boy at that point.
Good.
It wasn't until I landed at
Iowa.
the University of Hartford and I met the Rich brothers that things started to change a little bit. Andrew, you're the man. Thanks for being a diehard.
Last one is Donovan.
Donovan?
Yeah.
Huh.
Billy Donovan?
Donovan Mitchell.
Well, so there's so many ways we can go with this. Sure, he's a great coach and a great leader and a great thinker and a man who perhaps gets a little bit, at times, in his own lane and doesn't move out of it. But he's also can drop back and see the field. I mean, let's be real. He can shoot the three.
I was gonna say if it's Donovan Kling Kong from UConn,
He's
you're
a
not
great-
buying. You're not buying my grace, Donovan. You're not tricking me.
But he's a great protector of his family and his friends, and that's what you want. And that's why we're happy to have him as a diehard. Donovan, welcome in to Big D.
Probably Donovan Klingon. I see what you're doing,
Easily
Donovan.
Yeah.
You're not fooling me.
Couple more super chats. $4.99 from Aaron. What are your guys' thoughts on Jha-Quan Dexter? Do you think he's able to take that leap that Poles expects out of the defensive player he drafts? That'll be Aaron. He had a great second half of the year. Mm-hmm. I don't see why you would take any chips off the table with Jha-Quan Dexter. I love his attitude. I love the frame, the talent. The whole thing is, can he get off the ball fast enough and get that down? And I think there are signs that he can.
Yeah, I think, like you said, he did get better at the second half of the season. I also liked it, too. There was a rep that he had in the Detroit game where they lined him up at defensive end, and he beat the right tackle and was able to get to Jared Goff and won the play. So he has some versatility to his game to match with his big frame. He's got a nasty bull rush, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he can take a leap in year 2.
Well, I mean, and you saw how Montez Sweat became a multiplier for the entire defense, including Jha-Quan Dexter. So if they add another pass rusher, potentially with that first pick, or if they trade back a little bit and then they take, whoever, or even an interior guy like we've talked about today, that's going to only benefit a guy like Jha-Quan Dexter, who, yes, you have to assume he's going to continue to take the next step. This was a guy that was raw to a degree as far as coming out of college, and the get off is something he's got to, continue
Played
to
in a
work
different
on.
system,
He
too,
admitted that
Florida,
much
yeah.
with us when we had him on last year. I think he's ready to take another step for
Dexter
sure.
character, 100 out of 100.
Great dude.
Huge fan. We got one more? 2 more. All right, Peyton Garcia, $4.99. Once was selling insurance to one of Jay's distant family, and they said he was a jerk and never even offered them tickets. # Team Carm. Nobody on this show is surprised about that, even Steven.
There's hundreds of stories about that. So
don't care.
Yeah, it's like, go ahead, tell Jay I said he's a jerk. He is a jerk. He'll admit it. Tell him I said I'm a jerk too. I don't. It is what it is. Like I said, he ever comes in the studio, I'll leave.
Wow.
Armando Rita, $1.99. # quote, super chat.
Love it.
Thank you, Armando.
Super chat.
We officially, I think, can afford lunch for one of us today, so that's a good day.
I like eating.
It's a good recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I can't eat lunch. I've been eating way too much food.
Yeah, you don't look good. All right. Hey,
I had a Coney dog in Detroit.
big show tomorrow. Kyle Long will be here.
Kyle dies in the middle. Kyle Long on the show tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central. Adam Hoge back in studio. Let's roll.
Yeah, and I got one more day of antibiotics.
Thank God.
I still sound like shit. I'm coughing every other second. Supposedly I'm not dying, but if I do die, it was great being with you and you and you and you. All of you. Fingers crossed that I'm back and better than ever tomorrow. And
Kyle Long.
They didn't dent my car when they towed it.
Oh.
Tow goats. The tow goats.
I made it through I've done now 2 shows, made it through 2 whole shows. We're almost to Final Four weekend. I did not talk about Purdue barely at all on this show, and I'm proud of that. I am proud of that.
Congratulations. Hey, thanks for watching.
I don't know. I'm going to get through the next 2 days.
If you're not a subscriber, we'd really appreciate if you become one. Hit the like button on the way out too. And coming up later today on CHGO, Steven is all the good things.
What am I? Oh, you're saying what's left.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have CHGO Fire up next.
CHGO Fire is going to be on fire next. We'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.